on this computer. Hello, my darling.
Hello, my beautiful friend Robin.
Oh my gosh, thank you for doing this.
You're very welcome.
So we started planning this conversation a couple of months ago, and it's taken, well, however long it's taken for us to get to this point.
Yeah.
So thank you for staying the distance and making the time when it was exactly right.
And thank you for understanding my needs, because that's a really important thing for me. Yeah. Flexibility.
And I think we're going to end up talking about that, I imagine, a little bit later. But before we do, I know you, and there's parts of you I don't know, and there's people who won't know you. So are you happy to introduce yourself?
I am. Into the camera?
If you like.
I'll speak to you all because
perfect.
You know me or you don't know me. So my name is Ellen. I'm the absolutely delighted mother of 3 young adults, 24, 22, and 18. My youngest is about to move out on Saturday, so I'm in a very big transitionary time, but I'm in a lot of transitionary times in my life. I started out, always had a passion for the fields of mental health, disability, advocacy, and which is ironic because I've had to become a very strong advocate for myself in my life. To go to the beginning, I worked in South Africa for the Mental Health Society, and my career before having children was always in that. When I was in year 10, I volunteered as a youth worker. I've always been a very passionate advocate and very passionate person for people. I think my faith is humanitarian, not trying to be like beauty pageant here or anything, but that's how I feel. I really care about people. I really like people, love people. And I used to get in trouble for bringing home people, homeless people, hiding people who were running away for some reason and were having a difficult life. And that started at about the age of 13 for me. So I had a very clear path of what field I wanted to go into. Also, my whole life, all I wanted to do was be a mum. I just wanted that so passionately. And so when I had my children, I knew I just wanted to be with them. I knew that it was raising adults, not raising children. And also, to me, it was really important to be raising siblings that cared and respected each other. And I think it was important for me to facilitate that, because that does need guidance. And I think it's a fundamentally important relationship within the family unit, is not just the parent-child relationship, but the sibling relationship. And I think that is how to be. They learn how to be the adults they are into the world, and how to treat each other, because they will do anything to each other, really. And that's where the learning can happen. And, I just really wanted to be there. And I'm fortunate that my 3 children all have beautiful relationships with each other. So, personality comes into it. But I still, to this day, if one of them is being a bit unfair or unkind, I'll have the conversations. They call them my TED Talks, and they tend to happen in vehicles. And I'm not afraid with each of them to say, hey, you need to do this or think about this, because this could be affecting someone this way. So I think the learning never stops. And so that's been my greatest passion in my life, is raising my children. And I'm so grateful for my husband, for my children, and for the opportunity that I had. Not everyone's lucky enough to be able to be at home to raise their children. So putting that right out there, it was a luxury. And that doesn't mean that if you are working, that you're not doing the same amazing job. because I know you are. So presently, I am a practicing artist. I have a studio in Ocean Grove. I do massive canvases. My Facebook page is Two Worlds Colliding Art. And picking up art again, I did study it up to year 12. I never have really liked rules very much, I must say. And I found with art, I found it very stifling because it was like, do things this way, this needs to be done this way, and I don't like that. And I think it's everything against creativity to be told the way I'm seeing it is the way you should do it. And I think that applies to every area of life. The way that someone else is doing it is not the way I have to do it. And, you know, what makes me creative and unique is by not being pulled into that. And I think that's really important. Like you from the beginning all the way through, you know, we get caught up in times of, should I be doing it a different way? No. The way you choose, everything you choose is right for you. And I believe that. So it was interesting. I started seeing colours differently, and this is where I might go off tangent a bit. And I just had this absolute urge. I had to paint. And so I bought canvases and paint, and I painted, and everything I painted sold. And it was then in 2019, I'd been having health issues for quite a number of years, like 4 or 5 years. And this seeing colours differently came near the end of what was about to be a life-changing moment, which was getting diagnosed with terminal brain cancer and an inoperable tumour. So basically that's where I am now, and I'll let Robin ask me where she wants to go from there. That is me.
Thank you. When was the diagnosis?
The diagnosis was in 2019, and I'd had symptoms for 4 or 5 years, which I think often as a woman and as a woman my age, we often have things just put down to hormones, mental health. You know, I was told that I had PTSD from living in South Africa and witnessing violence that I saw there. I was told that I'd been bitten by a tick, and I had the whole gamut. I did not stop because I knew my body, and I could say I can feel something's not right. I could feel something's not right in my head, but not mental health, not right, something different. And I was getting a whole gamut of symptoms. And every one I would go and question, because I'm an advocate, and that includes for myself all the time. And I'm also a determined person, more than I knew. And I'm glad, because if I hadn't been, you know, it would potentially, you know, it would still be the same eventually. Something catastrophic would have happened with the tumour, which would have been what ended up having to still happen to me to get any help. And even then I was told when I went, and I was waking up having seizures, and I was waking up into them. And so I went and said, I need to get an MRI. And I was told, no, that's not necessary. But I said, yes, it is. And 20 minutes after I'd had the MRI, there was a phone call to say, you need to see your GP the next day. And so I knew straight away, well, clearly there's something not right. But then that was, you know, even when I pull up in front of Gisborne Medical Centre, I look at that room and I go, that is the room where my life changed. Line in the sand changed that day. And how I was going to navigate that would be critical, the most critical thing I've actively chosen how to do. Yeah. Yeah.
My question is about what does it mean for you to be a midlife rebel? And I'm wondering if you were telling us before that you don't like following rules.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, and the advocate you've been for yourself, I'm wondering if that part in you, what I call midlife rebel, was it there before? It sounds like it really was.
Yeah.
But what does being a midlife rebel mean to you in this context of your life now, before, however that occurs to you?
I think being a midlife rebel, I've always embraced it. It's funny, I've always loved teenagers, because teenagers tell you what's real. They're at this stage of life where if they see you do something that's questionable, they'll bring it up to you. They will challenge you. They will challenge everything. And I've always really liked them. And I found going into menopause, I think it's very similar, that you have these hormonal changes. And I really I feel like that teenage self that I was before. And I liked it because I like teenagers and I like questioning things. And I'm not afraid of dark things. And I'm not afraid to go there with others, with myself. But I also love to laugh and dance, as you know, which I can't really do anymore. But I still have the joy of music. But to me, to be a midlife rebel is, and it shouldn't be having to be a rebel to be such a strong advocate to myself. That should just be something that all of us as people are entitled to be heard, to be seen, to matter to who you're sitting in front of. To be heard is very important. And being an advocate shouldn't feel like a rebellious thing. We shouldn't even have to be one. And that's a massive thing for me. And so does that make me look challenging and rebellious? Absolutely. But to me, it's a human right to be heard and valued for whoever you are. Whoever you are, come to the table. But what makes me seem rebellious now is that I'm calling time on who I invite into my world, where I was less prone to do that, particularly before I got unwell. But now I only have time for those that bring to the table the same, my own personal belief system. And if you were not with me when things were great, I don't want to use my time with you now because things are bad. Because who are you doing it for? I see with much more clarity now. My time, I feel so unwell all of the time, and I have to sleep a lot. I have to work very, very hard. And I will sacrifice myself for some people and some days. I'll be like, I know what this is going to do to me. If I do this, I will be not well enough to potentially get up and shower in the morning. I won't be able to unload the dishwasher. It all goes behind close scene. I'm very private with it. But I've found, and it makes other people uncomfortable that I'm not saying, come and witness, come and be with me while I go through this. Because for me, I know what I need to do to be my best, and that is not to be distracted by things that are potentially negative. I can't control what other people say or do, or how they're managing my situation, and too often it becomes their situation and you end up telling them that it's okay. And so, yeah, so my rebelliousness is being brave enough finally to say, no, I don't have time to do that with you, or no, those people weren't in my life before, and so they don't get my time now. My time is so limited and precious and restricted. It goes to my unit first. Anything else, I've got a few friends that are ride or die. I've got an amazing professional team behind me, with Tiffany from Liberty. I cannot tell you how critical she is for me in this experience. And I've got a palliative care nurse, Jonathan, and they're both real, and that's how I am. And so that's not who I need around me, and I need people who, sometimes I go out and people won't even say, how are you? How are you doing? I went out with some people the other day and I hadn't seen them for, over a year. And I hadn't seen one person at all since I was diagnosed. And this person themselves had had a cancer situation, but were fortunate enough to recover from that. And no one asked me how I was. And I just think it's not everything about me living with this illness, because I say I'm living with it. I'm not dying from it right now. I am living with it. I know I will die from it. But, just to be seen and acknowledged, and I see that, I know what you're going through and you're here. And that's enough. I don't want to be the center of attention. I'm very private, with all of there's so many hidden side effects. I present perfectly normal to people, but, I have no short-term memory. And when I discovered I couldn't read books anymore, it was the most massive grief. But then what makes me a kick-ass rebel, I think, is I acknowledge it. I took myself into a dark room for 24 hours. I was beside myself, just devastated. And I said, you've got this 24 hours to go to as dark a place. And I went and howl at the moon kind of grief. But then by the next morning, I want you to think about what you can do and go out and do that, because that will take some of the pain away. It won't take it all away. There's still times where I go, I might just relax and read a book. I can't. But I have other joys. And so, yeah, I think as I said to you, I'm proud of who I am. I didn't know I had this in me. I feel bad that there will be some people hurt in how I navigate my disease.
What do you mean?
I think some people can feel rejected by me, by how I need to function. Well, I know they do, because, there are family members that don't understand how I manage this life. And to me, I am very selective of what voices go into my ear, because I'm very creative and very passionate person. And so I think I'm doing well. And the voices I've invited in as my critical team, that's so I don't have to feel like I'm carrying it alone or I'm dumping it on other people. So when I'm with you, I can just be with you. And if I want to talk to you about some hard stuff, I can. Please acknowledge the situation. Just, that's important. But if I'm not in the headspace, often things will happen that are quite confronting. So I met my son's girlfriend and her beautiful family on the weekend. And I came away and I felt sad. I thought, they're going to get him. When I'm gone, he'll be theirs. And it was devastating and painful. But then I had to say, but how lucky that he'll be so loved. And I'll always be his mum. That was tough.
Yeah.
That was tough. So I'm doing that all the time. So I'm very cautious of if I had that perhaps conversation with someone else, they might say, oh yeah, that'd be terrible. Oh my God, and that's not, and that's, I'm just cautious that you can't predict how people are going to communicate with you. And so I'm very protective of that. And it does make me isolate myself and shut down when there's very hard things to deal with. But that's because I trust who I am. I trust my own voice. I respect my own voice. I love my own voice. No, I do. And it's taken me a long time to get there. And that's where I'd say I'm kick-ass. I don't feel like I need anyone to tell me how to do things. How I do things are right for me. They don't have to be right for everyone else.
I can love that.
Yeah.
Was that always the case?
I've always had this spirit, but it did get attempted to be stifled with, absolutely. And some things that were beyond my control as a child certainly impacted how I viewed myself. Consensual things as a young teenager can make you then, question other things and question, you only know when you're older that it wasn't you. And so, yeah, it's definitely taken time. Moving and living in another country where I didn't know anyone else, I felt, who am I here amongst all these strangers? Different culture, different. I'm the strange person that's come and infiltrated this social group that's been in existence for a long time. Do I remain me, or do I try and morph into one of them so I'm more easily accepted? But I think I can't be. I just, and now I'm stronger than I ever knew. I'm wiser than I ever knew. I am not afraid. I had a doctor's appointment yesterday and I had a student doctor, and the other doctor said, do you see how intelligent and articulate she is? And I said to him, yes, I am. I didn't say, oh, thank you. I said, yes, I am. And I'm a very strong advocate for myself. And I said to that student doctor, not everyone can be. So learn from me. I said, that's why I wanted to come and see you today with this complex stuff, because I want you to learn from me and hear from me. And I said, I'm Dr. Shy now. I very rarely come. So, You see me and you learn from me. And I'm also teaching my kids. I'm teaching my kids so much. I see so many skills in them that they wouldn't have if this wasn't our situation. You know, I was out with Lara the other day and we were going down an escalator and she turned to me, 18, turns to me and said, "Is this difficult for you? And if it is, how can I make it easier?" And I just think, you're 18 and you can speak with that language. And you can also, when someone's going through a really hard patch, you can just come and just put your hand on them quietly and take, or not ask to solve anything, but just be there in the dark. And I could say to everyone, if you can just be there in the dark with people, you'll be an amazing human. Don't run away from the dark, because the dark, there's so much beauty in the dark. There's so much. You will find who you are in the dark. You won't find it in the good times, because you don't even take notice of the good times. They're just moments every now and then. Oh, you'll look back. Oh, that was a lovely thing, wasn't it? Or that was, but in the dark, you don't forget the dark. And you take from that and you learn from that and you visit it, but you don't stay there. You do not stay in the dark. And if you feel that you are, then you get your support team, which is exactly what I've got. I'm not some hero that can just deal this. I've got backing singers. I'm like Tina Turner with the backing singers, you know. And how much more boring would it be without them? We're all growing together. Yeah. But there are some people that can't be planted in my garden because they will damage it. So it gets a bit cutthroat. It does. And it sometimes that doesn't sit comfortably with me. But at the end of the day, if you can't respect what I need in this, you know, it's not a crisis. It is it's whole different to crisis. It's not going to pass. If you can't sit comfortably with me, and if you're not comfortable for me, well, then I just have to make my team smaller. But everyone's welcome. And everyone has value to me. And just because I'm not seeing people how I used to, and that I'm not able to do things, I feel I love more. And I think I love those people even more than I did before, because I don't take anything for granted. Everything's bittersweet. I always say everything's bittersweet. Everything comes with the yin and the yang. And it's hard. It's hard because, and you could drown in that, especially when you've got a terminal diagnosis. Everything can hurt you. Going Christmas shopping, you think, is this the last Christmas? You know, people will turn to you and say, I'm buying this for my grandchild. And you think, I probably will never get to see a grandchild. So then I have a cupboard with clothes in it that I've showed my kids and said, these could be presents for your friends, or if you ever have. These are from me, you know. And so really nothing will go unsaid or undone. And we're just creative now with the time we spend. And I wish it could be different. I find it very hard to never feel well. And every time I'm even with my most precious, I'm never feeling well. So that's hard. Yeah. So nothing's ever pure. There's always a little undercurrent.
You mentioned to me before we started recording Nothing is off limits.
No.
Tell me about dying.
It's interesting. It becomes, I'm planning it. As next week, I'm actually sitting down with Tiffany, with my husband, Andrew, with my palliative care support nurse, and we're doing what's called an end-of-life care plan, which literally everything I want, how everything wants is to go, gets recorded. So I've already decided I'm do not resuscitate. I have chosen songs that I love. Music's very important to me. So for me to have music is very important. Where I am in my illness right now, they've always said it's inoperable, but then they were talking about operating, and I think I'll decide not to. Because I would hate to go to sleep and wake up and have lost the ability to communicate, to be worse than I was when I'm after quality, not quantity. And I've always said to Tiffany, if I can't communicate, do not let anyone feed me peas or bananas. I hate them. But these are things that matter. It's the little things. It's like, imagine not being able to communicate and people are giving you banana bread, banana muffins, banana long wheat bix, and peas. No.
Hell on earth.
We do laugh a lot. We laugh a lot. And I'm like, don't let this and don't let that. But you know, in all seriousness, you have to like get down to the nitty gritty. Who are you comfortable coming and seeing you when you're unconscious or very vulnerable? You know, where will you die? Will you die at home? So I'm going to go and look at the different palliative care accommodations because I can't. I love you, Andrew, but I cannot see him in the caring role. And I mean, I have to get more information about how often, you know, staff would come to the house or whatever. But I think of practicalities too, which is so annoying. I think, how do they get the body bag down? I literally think of that. Like, I don't want the last things my kids see to be some comedy act with a body bag. I'm sorry, I don't. Trying to squeeze me down the stairs. What are they going to do? Let go and just watch me slide? No. You know, so this is where we laugh. I can laugh a lot, which is my great gift, I think. And yeah, so it's really, you have to go there. You have to go to, you know, my palliative care nurse has told me what it'll be kind of potentially like, and I've decided that I'd like to therapeutically try the drugs that they would use on me, just so, because some of them give you terrible nightmares. I'm not prepared for that. I've had that experience when I still had the ability to talk, and it was horrendous. The damage that, you know, the trauma from the bad reactions to drugs is horrendous. And to be, you know, you know, you want it to be as peaceful as it can be, which for brain cancer, you tend to just sleep more, which ironically, they tell you this, and that's meant to comfort you. But then when you have terrible fatigue, so you're sleeping all the time, so you think, am I dying? Is this it? Am I in the active process of this? And I guess, you know, I am in the active process of dying. And yeah, I'd say it's just a lot of stuff is bittersweet, but it is literally day to day, sometimes hour to hour, sometimes minute to minute. And, you know, yeah, there's nothing left unsaid and undone. I can't bring myself to write cards and letters and stuff to my kids. I've I just, oh, I want everything left unsaid, which I think it is. I'm really conscious. For me, the time for grieving is now. I'm grieving losing them. I'm grieving, I feel like a death, because I'm preparing myself to not have this beautiful life that I thought I would have with them. But then what breaks my heart is it's going to transfer to them. And that's what I'm trying to best prepare them for now. And that's why I'm so happy when I see Elliot with this beautiful extended, this beautiful family. And, and I just think, oh, you're going to be so loved still. You are going to matter to these people just as much, And isn't that what you wish for someone that you love? And it breaks my heart. I think of Lara and I think of her if she becomes a mother and mothering without a mother. So I have to pull myself back with those things, because that's a reality I can't change. I can have all the loving conversations. That's why I give them the TED Talks. I think I'm not going to be here I've got to cover this and I've got to cover this. And, I feel like I'm filling up all these tanks. And at the same time, that is really confronting and hard for me. And that's why it's like living with a grief. But I would rather have it than them. Yeah. And every decision I make is based on, I go by numbers, quite frankly. And it's like, it's simple if you go by numbers. 1 versus 4. They come first. If I need to be in care so that they can have as uncomplicated, they are loving, they are plugged in, but they don't need the complexities that come with that. They don't need to be thinking, who's going to be with mum today? How are we going to manage this? That's not what I want for them, So I will make the choice. I will make all of the choices, in fact. And they've always come first and they always will. So it's simple for me. And that's where even, in fact, making the decision not to have surgery, I don't want that for them. I don't want the potential risk, because the outcome at the end of the day is going to be my death from this anyway. So, I think it's much nicer to do things with having thought through, take the emotion out of it, just think, well, it's not taking the emotion out of it, actually. It's just being real.
Yeah. Kick ass. Thank you, who?
And kick ass.
And kick ass. Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you like people, how would you want people to support you? In your experience of noticing, and you were touching on it earlier, if you were to give people a sense of this works, this doesn't work, this is what I've noticed. Because I think you and I are both ex-social workers.
Yeah.
We're both Librans.
Yeah.
So we're both very relational beings. And I think sometimes we can take for granted, especially on an intellectual level, how to be with people. But there's 2 things in that. One is, don't take anything for granted. And it's not an intellectual exercise when you are in, like, I think as professionals, we were very adept at giving the information. Now you're living the information.
Biggest thing for me would be huge. It'd be for people to say, not what can I do, but just do it. Like, I find it really hard to ask for help. And historically in the past, when I have asked for help, I've not got it. So it makes it really, really hard to keep putting yourself out there. So instead of saying, can I, just do it. If it's a question that you have in your mind, would this help someone? Could I do this for someone? Just do it. Because then it comes about them not asking, but just being seen. And, you know, and people, I'd say this for especially extended family and stuff like that, respect that there will be changes in me. And it's not all due to the tumour. Some of it's because I'm having to adapt every day, emotionally, you know, physically. Don't expect me to be the same person that I was and that you think that I should be, because I'm adapting to be the best that I can be, but it might not be your definition of who I was and the best of. And to say that my personality has changed, which has happened to me, I'm more intense. Well, of course I'm more intense because I'm dying. What do you want me to be? Tinkerbell, you know, because I'm getting real. I am getting real. This is real. And I'm not going to play the games that were played anymore. And I'm not going to be a fence sitter, and I'm not going to not speak up for what I believe in wholeheartedly. And if that creates problem for you, and you might not be on my safe list. And that needs to be okay with you, because it's not my issue, because there must have been something that you weren't on my safe list for anyway. And, you know, so, and just because if I don't see you for a long time doesn't mean I don't love you and think about you and wish I could be. I really do. There's so many people. I'm so lucky to have so beautiful people in my life. And I wish that I could spend more time with them. But knowing that they're there and that they care about me is a beautiful thing. Yeah, it really is.
You said earlier that you've been really proud of yourself. Stronger than what you thought you were, wiser than what you thought you were.
Yeah.
And you've mentioned this is real and being real. This is a dick question, but I'm going to ask it because you and I are playing with this. How the fuck do we get this experience without dying? Like if you were to say to someone, this is what I want to give to you without you having to be in this position.
Yeah. And I think that is honing in on who your people are and really putting your energy to them and not getting caught up in I just want to be invited to fit in, or, you know, I would like to go on that girls' weekend just so that I feel like I belong to a tribe, when they're not even necessarily your tribe, but just that almost, there's almost, when I look back, there's almost a desperation that people have in the facade of life. And how can you, without dying, get to the place where, well, some people are. I've met some people that really are, but that's rare. I think when we stop caring so much about what other people think of us, that is when you start getting somewhere. And when you like, this is me, This is me. I don't have to change for anybody. I don't have to be thinner or fatter or richer or poorer. I don't have to be any of those things. I don't have to buy things from a certain shop. Like when all of that stops, because that can all change at any time, then you're getting somewhere. Then you're getting somewhere. Dying would not suit everybody. It's true. It's not for the faint-hearted. I'm not saying this is easy. Oh, this is, oh my God, like so far from a walk in the park that it's not funny. And there are some days that I just want to be like, drug me, take me away, just let my poor brain not be dealing with this, because everything's hard. But that's where I say, when you're living, you know, one of the big things that's got me through this, like I did something I didn't want to do. I skydived with my son. And it was a life-changing moment because he's a skydiver. And so I flew up, you know, I was terrified. I actually felt my brain rewire itself. It was so traumatic. But I did it because I told him I would do it as a sign of respect when he'd done all these skydiving courses, and, you know, he'd paid for them all himself. He worked, you know, really hard, and I flew with him and all his friends. And whenever I get overwhelmed, I look at that picture and I say, I'm brave. And I did something that I didn't want to do, but from that, and I went somewhere, I went down a path that I wouldn't have chosen unless someone, you know, invited me down who cared, who I mattered enough to me to walk there. And I take that photo with me to hospital and I go, look how brave you are. You're not afraid. You can do things that are hard. And so do those kind of things when you're well, because that's what you've got to draw on when you're not. Become kick-ass before you have to become kick-ass. Don't wait. Don't wait for that brick wall to fall on you to then go, oh, let's see what I'm made of. You may see what you're made of now while things are good, and own it and stockpile it, you know, because it's what you've got stockpiled. That's your spirit. It is your spirit. All this other stuff, that's not your spirit. That's not your character. Get to know your spirit and your character. And if there are things on it that you think, okay, needs a bit of work on this, or I don't need to be doing this anymore. Yeah, go for that. But you bank those things because that's what makes you strong. And that's what you look back at when you're in a bad way. I'm kick-ass. I did things that scared me before I had to. So now this doesn't scare me.
Can I just cry?
Yes,
Thank
absolutely.
you. I think I've been crying throughout the whole thing. I'm so grateful.
Thank you.
You're so generous.
Thank you.
I know there's going to be a cost to our conversation, and I want to honour that.
Thank you.
I want to honour you. I love you so much.
I love you too.
And I wish there wasn't a cost. I wish there was, that this was cost-free to you, because you've given, and I want you to have been able to give freely, and that's my need to not have taken from you, and I know I have. So thank you. Thank you for giving at a level that is, as you were mentioning earlier, it's deeper than what people see. It's hidden.
Yeah.
And so I want to make a statement around the fact that even that is hidden, even though I can't see it, even though people watching this can't see it, I want to acknowledge it.
Thank you.
May I?
Yes.